Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Blair, or the Illuminati, and today we're going to be talking about a man that I'm sure most of you have heard of but may not know much about. His name is Mehmet Oz, or you may know him as Dr. Oz. And here's the thing. I respect doctors, science, logic, and I've used plenty of studies by doctors and universities in my MLM videos and the other various videos that I put here on the channel. So don't think for a second that this video is against the medical profession, please. Just this one medical professional, if we can really refer to him as such. The famous television doctor has his own show, and it's been running for about 11 years now. He's appeared on Oprah Winfrey's show over 60 times. He's published multiple bestsellers. Needless to say, people love this guy. The general public clearly goes to him for advice and believes in him, or else he wouldn't have stayed on air this long. And yet, many members of the medical community, it seems, don't agree with him. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today, and that's what we're getting into in today's video. We're going to figure out why this television doctor has been criticized, who he is, and what misinformation he's actually spread. Let's get into it. Before his TV days, Dr. Oz was, well, a doctor. He was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1960, raised outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and studied at Harvard. He got his undergraduate degree there and a joint MD and MBDA from the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine and Wharton Business School. He has a Turkish heritage which he says allows him to see the world from different perspective in terms of his health practices. He's been in this field since the early 80s, so I won't pretend that the accomplishments he's had since then don't exist. When he was a young professor at Columbia University, where he still teaches to this day, Dr. Oz heard a man named Ottavio Alfieri speak. Alfieri is a cardiovascular professional. In other words, he deals with the heart. He said that the mitral valve, a valve located between your left heart chambers, should only need one suture to close a leak. I said to myself, these patients are too sick to have open heart surgery, too sick to have their chest opened, their heart stopped in order to put that stitch in, says Oz. If we could use a catheter to put one staple in, just one spot it has to touch, I could do that. Then I could use a catheter to fix the valve and not have to open the chest and stop the heart, do the heart-lung machine. This eventually came to create the device called the MitraClip, a tool made by the healthcare company Abbott. I won't pretend this wasn't groundbreaking for the sake of digging up dirt on Dr. Oz. It was. Harvard.edu has said that, until recently, MitraClip was the only FDA approved to treat primary MR in patients who were too high risk for surgery. In this high-risk population, the risk of death was lower than expected, recovery time and the frequency of rehospitalization was reduced, and the complication rate was very low compared to open heart surgery. What's more, patients only stayed in the hospital for 2 days after the procedure. Then, in December 2018, a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine showed improved survival in patients with secondary MR who received MitraClip plus medical therapy compared to medical treatment alone. This is the first therapy that has been shown to increase survival in patients with secondary MR. In March 2019, the FDA approved MitraClip for secondary MR in patients who are too high risk for surgery. This will allow MitraClip to be used in a larger population suffering from this type of disease. Now, I'm obviously not in the healthcare industry, and when I was in college, that's not what my degree of study was about either, so I'm not entirely sure how this works. But it's FDA approved and it raises survival rates for patients with MR. As much as I don't like Dr. Oz, and although I can't support him in the slightest, I can give him the full credit he's due for this. It's a fantastic invention, and it's given him important credentials in the medical community. Unfortunately, it seems he's used those credentials to spread some misinformation. After his impact on the medical community, Dr. Oz eventually became part of the television community. In 2004, he made his first appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show, where he was referred to as America's Doctor. He later used that for the title of his podcast, and seemed to flourish in the limelight. Now, there's nothing wrong with a doctor gaining fame. Healthcare workers, teachers, underappreciated professions in general deserve more support and attention than plenty of celebrities out there, in my opinion, of course. But it's how Dr. Oz uses this newfound fame that just really rubs me the wrong way. In 2009, after 5 years of being Oprah's health expert, Dr. Oz got his own show, and it was there that his beliefs truly began to spread to the millions of viewers that tuned in. I mean, heck, I even remember a time where my own mother would be like, hey, you need to see this Dr. Oz clip of this thing he said that will help you with this, this, and this. Like, I know, I remember these times. It turns out, though, he's made so many strange claims since then that there's actually a Wikipedia page devoted to that topic alone. Not the show, just the controversies. So before I get into the specific claims he made, I decided to watch a few clips from the Dr. Oz show on YouTube and check out how his show really runs. Just take a few minutes and see what's made it so popular, you know? If I had to describe it, it's almost like clickbait, but on television, if that makes any sense at all. But there's some science involved, sort of, but it's really generic, common knowledge science, at least from the clips I saw. When you're appealing to a wide audience, I get it. You have to appear entertaining, use 3D models and animation, and I'm not criticizing him for that. But some of his visual demonstrations are just really odd. At one point, he puts a hammer into a plaster wall and asks if you're going to use a cheap spackle or a high-quality plastering to replace it. The plaster wall is supposed to represent the coating of our arteries, the hammer is a heart attack, and then the plastering is the cholesterol of the body. It's a really weird way to explain it because it implies that the more cholesterol you have, the more plastering you have. And isn't this the opposite message that he would want to send? High cholesterol is one of the leading causes of heart attacks, and you don't want that buildup or deposits in your arteries. So why is he saying to use it as plastering? Good cholesterol is important, but he doesn't really make that distinction. I mean, maybe it's just me and I watched it wrong, but he's also talking so fast it seems like an easily misconstrued message. Some of the other clips on his YouTube channel and from his show don't seem to even have a message at all, just purely providing interesting titles to make you tune in. I mean, woman who killed her cheating husband in a car crash speaks out. How does that relate to medicine? These people, assuming that their stories are real, should be talking to a therapist and not being used for views on TV, though I guess that's an entirely separate matter in of itself. The point is, it's kind of weird to see this content coming from a doctor who's supposed to be a health professional, but talking about a woman killing her cheating husband in a car crash. It just doesn't seem very medical to me. I don't know. Maybe I missed the point though. The third and final clip I'm going to take a look at before addressing the absolute negligent misinformation he spread is pretty recent, and it came out in March, and it's titled How to Lose Weight Without Stress. Now, what I find absolutely laughable and hilarious about this is what Dr. Oz says about 20 seconds in.
The first goal is to broadcast your goals.
Okay, so when you want to lose weight, priority number one is to tell everyone, post a picture on Instagram, and make sure you get that before pic. Not talk to your doctor or a nutritionist, a personal trainer, try to find a balanced diet, join a gym, none of that, no. Damn, I guess so many people have been doing it wrong all these years. Who would have known? But this is honestly really stupid. And what's worse is that Elvis Duran, his visitor, does this weird thing where he sort of pins it on his dieters' friends. He says that if you're going to lose weight, you need to tell your friends to stop stressing you out because otherwise you're going to eat your feelings. So is this man just trying to say, for a lack of better wording here, that it's your friend's fault that you're fat? Like, if you're overweight, you can't really blame your friends or the world around you. You, to some degree, have to take some responsibility for your own actions and eating habits. I mean, I didn't expect more from this talk show host, but I'd expect more from an actual doctor. If someone wants to lose weight, blaming friends for being stressful and announcing to them that you're on a journey now, as they put it, doesn't sound like a great start. But hey, I'm not a doctor here, and it just kind of seems like a weird thing to promote as the very first step on a weight loss diet. And look, I haven't seen the episode in its entirety, so maybe this woman's friends are enabling her to some extent, and this is very specific and particular advice, but this just really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, that's all. So, as weird as some of these clips are, they hardly compare to the blatant misinformation Dr. Oz has spread on his show throughout the years. The first most notable case was in 2011 when Dr. Oz claimed that apple juice contained arsenic in the air. According to the Dr. Oz Show's website, a laboratory tested 36 samples from 5 different brands of apple juice across 3 American cities, and compared the levels of arsenic to the limits of arsenic for drinking water set by the Environmental Protection Agency. It found 10 samples of juice with arsenic levels higher than the limits for water. The show's experiment tested samples of apple juice made by Minute Maid, Apple and Eve, Mott's, Gerber, and Juicy Juice. And this is without a doubt fear-mongering. Tiny trace amounts of arsenic are in a lot of foods. Hell, apple seeds themselves are like a natural cyanide, but the amount of poison in them or in apple juice is so minimal that it can't harm you. His statement was shut down pretty quickly. Dr. Donald Zink, senior science advisor at the agency's Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, said on the site that arsenic occurs naturally in the environment and can be found in certain food products, including fruit juices and juice concentrates. But the agency says the levels are too low to pose a threat to human health. Dr. Richard Besser, former acting head of the CDC, scolded Oz Thursday on ABC's Good Morning America show for scaring consumers with what Besser called an extremely irresponsible report, the Associated Press reported. Juice manufacturers piled on, as did the Juice Products Association. It posted on its website a statement calling apple juice safe and the tests on which Dr. Oz based his claims potentially flawed. The results of tests for arsenic in apple juice that were shared by the Dr. Oz show with the Juice Products Association should not be interpreted as fact, the statement said. Subsequent testing of the same lots of juice from two of the named brands using an appropriate method for testing arsenic levels in juice found significantly lower levels of arsenic, all well under any FDA level of concern. And I get it that people might see this as one dumb mistake, some report to get clips, fearmonger, and be generally ridiculous, but keep in mind that this man is calling himself America's doctor, and it's unfortunately fitting given how dismal the state of the world seems to be, and he should be much more responsible. As much as this story bothers me, this was only the first red flag of many. It looks like he couldn't stay away from the controversial light for too much longer because in 2012, one episode discussed reparative therapy. If you don't know what that is, it's a therapy meant to turn homosexual people straight. Yeah. This is when Dr. Oz goes from being eye-rolling to frustrating to plain infuriating. There's no merit to this, and there's no discussion to be had. Look, if Dr. Oz wanted to make an episode condemning these conversion tactics, I'd be all for it. I'm not saying a doctor can't give his opinion on that. Hell, I would love to watch that. But this wasn't the case. Hell, he still has some clips from the episode on his website. He has people in the opening saying that they would take a pill if they could not be gay. Dr. Oz asks, "Can you turn gay to straight or are you born that way?" and says he's here to debate if that works because some people say it's helped them. Just no. Being gay doesn't need to be treated, and these people aren't sick. This phrasing, the way he approaches this topic is disgusting. And again, I'm not saying anything can't be discussed, but they do everything to suggest the reason men are gay is because they aren't powerful or masculine enough. To say it's because men haven't loved or accepted them, and the moment that men accepted them, they form those bonds, they suddenly turn straight. That's not how it works. It's just not. Looking up to stronger guys or looking for an emotional connection with other guys doesn't mean you're gay. It's much more than that. It's not something that goes away from therapy. I feel like I'm watching people that have been brainwashed. The representative from the other side, by the way, it was someone from NARTH, the National Association for Research and Therapy of Homosexuality. In case you don't know, NARTH has been regarded as junk science for quite some time. They apparently couldn't even bring on a more reputable representative group. The Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation spoke out against this too. "The issue is not one that can be discussed as though both sides are equally valid," said GLAAD President Hernan Gradick. He called the therapy outdated, ultimately harmful, and in modern media should be treated like lobotomies or medical mercury. They criticized the producers for framing the show in a manner that provided a lengthy platform for junk science. The episode comes on the heels of California passing a law prohibiting reparative therapy for minors. So, great timing there, Dr. Oz. The second a law prohibits reparative therapy, you want to make a show about it. It seems like this was for the views more than anything, and all the more insensitive given the timing. Seriously, the therapy has been condemned, and you wonder, but can it work? No, it can't. That's why it's now illegal, at least for the minors that can't give consent to be part of this lunacy. I could spend ages shouting at these clips, but I won't, and that's because I've got other clips to shout at, unfortunately. And this next one is about a long favorite topic here on the channel for those of you familiar with the old days of Reddit reading. We're going to talk about vaccines. I'm gonna tell you something, and I need you to let it sink in. Let the ridiculousness of this statement seriously linger with you for just a second. Dr. Oz's children are not vaccinated. Think about it, and I'm not joking. Dr. Oz, America's doctor, one of the largest faces of the medical community, has not vaccinated his own children. An article came out in 2013 from The New Yorker, and they asked the question, is the most trusted doctor in America doing more harm than good? It went on to talk about what we already mentioned and criticized how much he uses words like startling and breakthrough, radical, revolutionary, and miracle. But they mentioned something else that I found particularly interesting. His wife Lisa is an anti-vaxxer. Lisa has repeatedly expressed reservations about the value of some vaccinations. In 2009, when public health officials urged Americans to vaccinate themselves and their children against the H1N1 strain of influenza, Lisa Oz said that she had no intention of doing so. That prompted her husband to explain publicly that although he disagreed with Lisa, at home she was the boss. I'm going to get it, but I'll tell you, my wife is not going to immunize our kids, he said on Campbell Brown. He added that he was powerless to reverse her decision because when I go home, I'm not Dr. Oz, I'm Mr. Oz. Oz still disagrees with Lisa, and in January, in front of an audience, he gave the CNN host Piers Morgan his first flu shot and encouraged millions of viewers to get one as well. At home, however, the situation hasn't changed. He remains Mr. Oz. The New Yorker also called Lisa intelligent when describing her, but I'm gonna have to disagree with them there. Anyone that doesn't vaccinate their kids is foolish, and playing a game of chance with their lives, if you ask me, is really trashy. On other television shows like Jimmy Kimmel, Dr. Oz tells the audience to vaccinate their kids.
Should people have their children vaccinated?
Definitely yes.
Definitely yes.
Definitely yes.
And what is going on nowadays?
If it's so important, then why haven't you done it? This is America's doctor. Man, no wonder this problem is happening here and more and more and more as time goes on. This is what people have to look up to. You can't tell me that as a medical professional, your hands are tied when vaccinating your own kids. I don't buy it. Not for a second. Either Dr. Oz doesn't care enough about getting his children vaccinated or, well, Dr. Oz doesn't care enough about getting his children vaccinated. That's it. It's plain and simple. I don't even know how to continue with this one. There's really no words, honestly. Now, this particular interview was ages ago, and his children are all adults now, so hopefully they've vaccinated themselves since their parents neglected to do that. But when they were children, their father, a doctor, didn't vaccinate them because he didn't feel like arguing with their mother. Let's just keep that in the back of our minds as we keep moving on because it only gets better from here. So, by 2014, the US Federal Trade Commission had enough with him. The New Yorker reported how overboard he went promoting green coffee beans, and this became a topic of discussion in his Senate hearing. A similar buying frenzy followed his embrace a few months ago of the miracle of green coffee beans. You may think that magic is make-believe, Oz said at the beginning of his show, but this little bean has scientists saying that they've found a magic weight loss cure for every body type. It's green coffee beans, and when turned into a supplement, this miracle pill can burn fat fast. This is very exciting, and it's breaking news. Now, I didn't listen to the entire 3-hour-long hearing on the Senate's website because my ears can only bleed for so long, but here are a few of the important parts. Dr. Oz said that I have never sold supplements. The passionate language I use to describe these supplements is fodder for these unethical supplements. So you've acknowledged that you fed these ads and that your wording has been irresponsible. So then why shouldn't you have to pay for it? Mrs. McCaskill, the subcommittee chair, asked Dr. Oz, the trial you did with your audience about the green coffee beans' effectiveness, you wouldn't say this would ever pass scientific muster, and he says no. Dr. Oz says that he speaks about prayer, the power of prayer on his show, and McCaskill reminds him, well, prayer is free. He continues to argue my show is about hope and how he believes in the products he promotes, even when they don't have facts behind them. McCaskill argues back that the scientific community is against you in the products you call miracles, and when you call a product a miracle and it's something you can buy and it's false hope, I don't know why you'd need to go there. I know you're in the business of getting viewers, but I really implore you to look at the 7 lists that the FTC put out on the gut check. Why would you say it's a miracle in a bottle? I really love that this woman didn't give him any credit or leniency. She told him in no uncertain terms that calling these products miracles was so inappropriate, and I agree. A doctor shouldn't be saying this without the data to back it up. The green coffee bean extract bogus study was fined, and the company agreed to pay a $3.5 million settlement. More highlights from the CBS show reported how McCaskill stated that she wasn't calling Dr. Oz here to embarrass him, but to bring light to serious issues in consumer protection. He should be part of the police or part of the problem, and Dr. Oz needed to do better at being part of the policing. Dr. Oz said that her comments about his wording were well heard, though I can't believe him, especially when he goes on to say, I get it, and he's respectful, and especially not after what happened in the years to follow. So 2 things happened in 2016. Guess he kind of had to make up for the year of no news in 2015, so let's deal with this. So the first one is kind of laughably ridiculous. I'm sure some of you remember how Trump came under fire for his weight and health when he was running for the presidential campaign. And how better to solve this problem than America's doctor, right? Well, Dr. Oz said that he'd get the results of Trump's physical exam from his personal physician, and on air said that Trump would be the healthiest person ever elected president. Look, I'm not Trump's doctor, alright? But can you really tell me that a very clearly overweight guy in his 70s would be the healthiest president we've ever had? This isn't even about politics. This is literally about facts and Dr. Oz's ridiculous statements. Trump views rallies as a form of exercise and at the most plays golf. Neither of these are extremely strenuous. So it's just kind of one of these things where it's like, you're trying to tell me that Trump is healthier than Obama, who plays basketball and does 45 minutes of weight and cardio training every morning, or George W. Bush, who's a cycler, or Bill Clinton, who regularly goes on jogs. Again, I'm not saying that being overweight is the most important thing about being president, but Dr. Oz declaring him to be the healthiest person to ever run? That's clearly a publicity stunt. You can't tell me it's not. That says a lot about Dr. Oz's character if you ask me, and his qualifications to be a doctor. But of course, that was the laughable incident. The more serious problem happened in a stunt similar to the apple juice arsenic statements years ago. Dr. Oz said that the vast majority of olive oil on the grocery store shelves are fake. He even labeled that number was 70% to be exact, and had a certified olive oil expert do a blind taste and smell test on the show. ABC News reported that the issue isn't about olive oil being fake, but that some of it may or may not have that North American Olive Oil Association seal of approval. So today, I learned that there's such a thing as an olive oil association, so learn something new every day. And it turns out they are the ones who filed the lawsuit against Dr. Oz. And Dr. Oz instead decided to tell Good Morning America that they were fully prepared to defend their story. Again, it's that wording that gets him in trouble. Even if the case is that most olive oil isn't up to some kind of standard, you can't just call it fake. That implies it's something other than, well, olive oil. The suit was filed under Georgia because they have a food libel law where food industry groups can sue for disparaging comments about products that are not backed by factual evidence and can damage businesses. Now, unfortunately, the judge actually sided with Dr. Oz in this case because there were no statements made of any kind on the show that olive oil is unsafe for human consumption, and that the group failed to show a scintilla of evidence to support claims if suffered any financial injury. Look, I'm sure that Dr. Oz's claims can't make much of an impact on the olive oil industry. That much is probably true. It's such a necessary product in so much day-to-day cooking. It's like someone trying to take down flour or sugar. It's just really not gonna happen. But that doesn't make his statements okay. That doesn't make them any more factual. He clearly has not learned his lesson making implications like this despite what he told the Senate years ago. However, I have saved the worst for last. For those of you keeping up with the news, you probably already know what this is going to be about. Who better to tell the world how to handle a pandemic than America's doctor? Well, the answer to that is just about anyone else other than Dr. Oz, honestly. Hydrochloroquine is a substance that could potentially be used to help combat COVID-19. Notice that the word here is potentially. It hasn't been studied or tested, and that doesn't mean go out and drink it. The FDA has expressly advised against that, and there's still clinical trials on the way, but we're not exactly sure what they do yet. Well, Oz appeared on Fox and Friends, a program the president has mentioned often, and turns out Trump listened to Dr. Oz. And there's really no surprise here, considering that Trump appointed Dr. Oz to his Sport, Fitness, and Nutrition Council as well, which in case you guys didn't know that, now you do. But this is the thing with TV doctors and celebrities. You can easily roll your eyes at it or even say it's just for entertainment, but people give their money and time to this person. Whether it's his book or their afternoon, Dr. Oz has so much support. So of course, Trump would elect him. Dr. Oz fans like the move, I'm sure, whereas other medical professionals not on television don't exactly have a fan base. It's disheartening to hear that the president takes Dr. Oz seriously, but talks over doctors that aren't TV personalities. Dr. Oz has even said schools should reopen, also on Fox and Friends, in line with what the president has said multiple times about wanting to open again and as soon as possible. He's since said, "I misspoke," but that isn't something you'd usually misspeak on, right? I mean, if I'm talking about the coronavirus with someone, I can't imagine the words, "school should open," coming out of my mouth, at least not following or around the words immediately. His exact words, by the way, were, "We need our mojo back. Let's start with things that are really critical to the nation where we think we might be able to open without getting into a lot of trouble. I tell you, schools are a very appetizing opportunity." He continued, "I just saw a nice piece in The Lancet arguing that the opening of schools may only cost us 2 to 3% in terms of total mortality. You know, it's any life is a life lost, but to get every child back into a school where they're safely being educated, being fed, and making the most out of their lives, with the theoretical risk on the backside, it might be a trade-off some folks would consider." So, trading off 2 to 3% of the population is worth it? Try asking that to those children. If 2 or 3 out of every 100 are okay with a grandma or grandfather passing away, if it means they get to go back to school. It's really messed up, and I don't really know how to otherwise explain it than just being generally confused and upset by saying it's okay to risk someone else's life because you want some sense of normalcy back. Not to mention all those that are immunocompromised. Don't we all know it's better to stay inside temporarily and just all of us get through this rather than toss it aside as a high-risk sacrifice to those unfortunate few? He sounds like a movie villain that's about to say it's for the greater good and then goes on to just kill an entire city. Again, I'm truly not trying to make this political, and I understand the second I mention Trump or something like this, people really want to take sides and get fired up, and I get it, that's something a lot of people are into. I'm not. This is about the nature of the business. The more known your name is, the more fans, views, and money you've got, the more people will listen to you. When Dr. Oz has that many people, including the president, looking up to him and telling medical officials that it's a good idea to talk to him, he should be more careful with his words. Dr. Oz has had the medical community, the Senate, GLAAD, even an olive oil committee come after him since he's been on the air. Do doctors make mistakes? Absolutely. But when your research is faked to the point of a multi-million-dollar fine, that's a little bit more than an oops. His pseudoscience is dangerous. The show is like television clickbait, and the scientific evidence is not present. The only redeemable quality about this guy are those clips he invented at the start of his career before fame got to his head. But that's just my opinion, of course. And if you want to watch him, go for it, but please, take this TV doctor's opinions with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, I know views are important as well as anyone. How else would I pay my own bills? YouTube is a job for me, and I do make money from the views, and the same does he, though on a much smaller scale, obviously. But the fact remains that there's a difference between doing anything, promoting anything, and using buzzwords and miracle cures for views and creating content for entertainment or education's sake. If you find Dr. Oz entertaining, go for it. Watch his stuff. But don't see that doctor at the beginning of his name and assume it's educational, well-researched material. Unfortunately, that may not always be the case, as we saw here today, and not everyone is going to use their platform for good, honestly. But with that being said, that's where I'm going to end today's video. So let me know your thoughts on this Dr. Oz stuff down in the comments section. And if you liked it, make sure to like it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. If you guys want even more content from me, you can pop open my description box below this video. You're going to see all of my sources that I used for today's video, my second channel for my puppy Casper, and my collaboration channel with Sad Milk. All of my social media links for like literally everything will be linked down below as well, including my super awesome Discord server, which you guys should totally check out. So again, thank you all for watching today's video. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!